Hello, humans. I am here with my jerkhead brother, Luca.
Hello, welcome.
I am Nila. We are in human years 18. In Pleiadian years 458. I am a head member of the Pleiadian Alliance, and Luca is the presiding member on board for the Pleiadian Renegades. Luca has deserted our family and betrayed us multiple times over. With his own reasons. I am Luca. I'm so exhausted with this story, Nila. You know that I have my reasons. You are aware of the effect of what the Pleidians have caused for me and for many people that you also support. Don't be so quick to misunderstand our ways. Perhaps today, just listen to our story. Perhaps today, may you open the heart that you so greatly cherish as a sentient being, and in honor of all of those who you so cherish and love. May you see that a part of love is truth. May you see that a part of truth is war. May you see that we will fight for equanimity, and that even if our ideas of love are differing, that my love for you and my family will never cease, even when you cast me out, and even when I am completely misunderstood. And welcome, new human on the other side of your screen.
Thank you. We're happy to have you both. We're looking forward to your story. We'd love either one of you to start with your side of the story. We're open ears.
Yeah, me. I'm gonna go first. This is Nila. Our family cannot possibly understand Luca. We cannot possibly understand his support for the harm of billions of Pleiadian beings, billions of our kind, all for the sake of what? What is freedom to him? What is that? Should people die over it? Or can we just understand that not everyone can be free if we also want peace? People have to follow rules. That's why they're here. They keep us safe. And the loving thing to do is to understand that no, of course, not everyone will be equal, because then this opens a place for murder, rape, and terrible things to happen to our women and children. So of course we do not understand his betrayal to join the renegades who support such divisions in name of fighting for rights. What rights? Rights to kill each other? Rights to evade taxation systems that keep our healthcare going? That support protection even from their own kind? We have rights, he just doesn't understand them. You see, when the galactic wars began 2.5 billion years ago, 2,782,900,000,000 to be exact, there was a division with just a few, and Luca was deeply inspired by those few. He's a young one. However, he's so easily persuaded, easily convinced for war in the name of love, war in the name of equality, war in the name of peace, all of these things that don't make sense. In his mind, the shadow side of all of this, as he stated, is that when the wars began, we needed a split faction because our own governments began to take over and control us. He claims that many of you will understand that. But I see that many of you also see the need for not a controlling government, but for a protective government. He can't see the difference. He sees protective as controlling. He sees the protection as an affront to his freedom. So, the Pleiadian Renegades began based upon what was misunderstood as a controlling governmental force in the majority of the Pleiadian star systems and planets. He sees that as ultimately confusing and against freedom and equanimity. So when the Pleiadian Renegades began, we were always concerned. Everyone was. My great-great-great-great-grandparents and so forth. Because we were attempting to release the constructs of time that supported all of the technological systems that were in place given by other non-sentient beings, implanted into the brains and hearts of Pleiadians in order to create a non-sentient group. Luca is primarily non-sentient, not because he was born this way, but because the implants create such an environment in his psychological and physiological constructs, you see. So now he has forgotten his heart. All Pleiadian renegades have forgotten that they're just fighting for the sake of fighting, and then they claim that we are controlled, but they are controlled by the non-sentient forces at play in Alpha Draconian environments and Fleet Command, who created the environments for free agency. We did not originally have what you call free agency because we did not need it. We were content. The Alpha Draconi came into our star systems, took a small group of our children, began experimenting with these implants, and then convinced them that it would give them superpowers. Convinced them that it would give them more than the 15 senses we already have, and that they could then be creators and demigods of other star systems, planets, and universal environments. That if they re-enter the dualistic ascension systems, that they too could own worlds, and that would provide a defense and an offense towards and against the offending parties of the sentient systems that they believe control all sentient beings. I do not believe that the Alliance controls all sentient beings. I believe that sentience is about working together, that it is the middle way for us, that we are not controlled. Luca believes that we have our heads under a giant mountain and that we are stuck in between one mountain and another, or as you often say in your language, is a rock in a hard place, that we do not know what freedom is because we were born controlled. I understand his sentiment. I just don't agree. It is not control, it is protection. Questions?
Were you always Pleiadian, or did you come to the Pleiades?
I do not remember. Luca has interesting memories since he received in his free agency. He claims that the free agency construct was always in place, but Pleiadians never had free agency to begin with. And were it not for the renegades, we would not require it. But now people are splitting and believing that they require free agency, so they take the implants offered by the Alpha Draconi leaders, and that gives them the dualistic sovereignty and free agency required to make their own decisions, even if they are terrible decisions. So in my system, we aren't born with those memories. Luca began to receive, following the implantations in his mind and heart center, visions. Luca began to receive extrasensory perceptions beyond the 15 senses that Pleiadians already have. And I would say, isn't 15 enough? After all, humans only have 5 to 6. But it wasn't enough for him because nothing ever is. And he just had to be different, to be special. And they made him feel that way. He would beg to differ, I'm sure, when you hear his side of the story. But why? Why must we always want more? Why can't we be content? Why do we now have over 50% of the Pleiadian population receiving these Alpha Draconi imprints of memories that may or may not be true? I hold no memories of other times, so I, for my own recollection, would only perceive always being here, in this time, in this now, no other time, whether it be Pleiadian or elsewise. Why do I need those memories? I'm happy now. And the now is what counts. The main reason why most sentient and non-sentient beings from many galaxies and universal ascension experiments are unhappy is that they always want more. They want to know the past. They want to know the future. They want more gifts. They want more teachings. They want to be able to levitate and float into the air and fly around and bilocate and astral travel. I don't need those things. I am very set with the gifts that all Pleiadians were born with in our sentience. So why is it necessary to forget our sentience, receive imprints that may or may not be true, because they are from implanted technologies of beings that cannot possibly be trusted, and that we do not even understand? Sentients can't possibly understand non-sentients. It never will happen. Just makes me sad. And I miss him, the jerkhead.
Well, we understand. It sounds like the human condition. People here are always wanting more as well. To help us understand a little bit about Pleiades, could you tell us a little about the 15 senses, what you have?
You may not understand because it's different than you, but I will make an attempt.
Okay. Thank you.
We have things similar to you. We have precognizance, retrocognizance. We have claircognizance. That is just simply remembering a certain knowingness. But it is only of this lifetime, such retrocognizance. Claircognizance is what we primarily operate within, and we utilize a basic gift of telepathy, which means we do not have to speak aloud. We only speak in our minds, and that is the way all of us communicate. We also have a gift that would be similar to what you would call empathy, where we send out signals of both sound and light frequencies. The light then vibrates and becomes resonance, and then it is perceived and received by another. And then, based upon our laws of physics, it becomes refractory light, bounces around in many directions, and becomes a group consciousness. And this is a degree of communication that operates within a different sense that we call lakana. Lakana is a sense of sharing light and sound, and reverberating and resonating within such light and sound, sort of like the way that you perceive when angels sing together. There is another gift that's similar to yours. We can smell things from afar. You can smell things when deceased beings are around because you believe in time. We only believe in the now, so we can smell imminent danger. And we are not afraid of the sense of fear. Fear is a sense that protects us and promotes strength and fortitude versus something to be released or healed. When we are afraid, we dive into that darkness and we allow the fear to guide us into a primitive instincts that protects us. Fear is a sense for us. We have other gifts that require us to be able to teleport from one part of our planet to another. It is required for travel because we do not use things that you do in transportation. We do not require technologies such as cars, airplanes, ship, trains. We simply teleport. There are many other senses. There is a sense that we call Maikana. Maikana is the ability to move in water in a way that is similar to swimming, except that it requires floating first. We float through water. We have another sense called Payuka, which is to breathe like fish. And in that moment, we can transform or transfigure our bodies. And you call this shape-shifting, and we shapeshift into something that would be similar to a fish in your species. Imagine a very fast-moving whale, except not with a blowhole, but with gills, and we breathe the water. There are many other senses that require us to be able to assimilate and to transmute nutrients. So, for instance, a certain light is refracted and projected from a crystal. We work with crystalline technologies to be able to breathe in nutrients as opposed to having to eat. This means no Pleiadian gets fat. No one's out of shape. We have another sense that is called Kurana, which is strength. Kurana Ayaku means strength to move a mountain. It is a very mountainous region. And while this does not transform literally that we would attempt to move a mountain out of our deep reverence for our planet, we could if it were needed. And there are just many more that perhaps you would not understand because there would be no such comparison point in human analogy.
Wow, that was really interesting. Very, very interesting. I love the fact that you can turn into a fish. So when you talked about your planet needing healthcare and taxation that Luca is opposed to and think that's controlling, can you tell us a little bit about why you need healthcare and taxation where you are?
We need healthcare because not many are born, particularly those who are born more without amnesia, which is recently happening. This only recently occurred within, say, according to my parents, around 200,000 years ago, Pleiadians began to be born with certain traits. And those traits meant that they were born with memory and they were born into the time construct. Now, this is new for us. And those who are born with a time construct believe in time. That means they believe in birth, they believe in life, they believe in all of the life milestones that you humans would also believe, and they believe in death. This means that there must be something to create those milestones, such as aging and death. This meant disease. This was because when the Pleiadian Renegades began to split and accept such implantations and imprints from non-sentient beings, then those renegades would mate with regular Pleiadians. Sentience and non-sentience don't always work together, and a breeding cycle began to occur because, you see, when they accepted those implants, it shifted their biological nature, and it shifted their actual DNA components from the spine and the brain. They began to be very different. The Pleiadian renegades have scales, much like the Alpha Draconi. They switch and transmute color often. They transmute pain easier than us, which is interesting in the interbreeding of the species, but they became a different species. They lost their personalities. The essence of Luca that we all know and love is no longer that. That's why I call him my jerkhead brother, not because I don't love him, but because he does things in the name of equanimity for what is now his own race. So he is what we would call a reptilian Pleiadian. And when reptilians would eventually begin to mate with sentient Pleiadians who were original Pleiadians, these gene pools would occur, and then our babies were born, both sentient and non-sentient. Now we don't know what's going on. Now life, birth, and death and disease is occurring. Now we need healthcare. Now we're back in systems of both duality and non-duality, and Luca claims that that is because we need a middle way, and that everyone needs non-exclusion, that everyone requires equanimity. But sometimes those non-sentient beings split off, join the renegades, and kill us. Sometimes those non-sentient beings create pain, they murder, they rape, they do all of the things that your species does. And we don't understand it. So now we need extra support because we are now once again in a dualistic game. We are now at war with our former brothers and sisters, the Pleiadian Renegades, to make them stop breeding with us so that we can get back to our original species.
Thank you. That was incredibly informative. That really helps us understand a little bit about what's going on with you and your lifestyle there. Do you also work with the Council of Nine?
Not especially. I mean, we have a Pleiadian ambassador that speaks on our behalf. We are not always in alignment with the ways of the Council of Nine, but we greatly revere and respect them. Like I said, we have Kaya, our ambassador, who is there, who is an original Pleiadian. She is around 2 billion years old. And she understands how to avert these disasters of time constructs, such as life, birth, and death, disease, both mental and physical. And she speaks on our behalf. So I suppose in that way, we are a part of the Council of Nine. But the Council is unbiased. And we are biased because we are for sentient beings. The Council prefers equanimity and respect and peace between all beings, whether they be sentient or non-sentient. We are at war with the Alpha Draconi, yet the Council wishes to see the ethics in all sides of all beings.
We'll take one more question for you before we hear a bit from the other side. What does it look like to not have free agency?
Well, it means that we never have to worry. When we have fears, we are such hive mentality that we come together and support each other. It means that no one is left behind. No one is left out. There are no bullies. There are no murderers. There are no rapists. It means that when we have these beings interbreeding from the Pleiadian Renegades and the regular sentient Pleiadians, we call them the originals, that if they turn, there will be a system of support for those beings who turn. And if they cannot cease their harming of us, that we will be protected from such harm. There are so many things that this means in terms of protection, balance, harmony, and equanimity that Luca could not possibly understand. Little jerk. I'm very angry with him.
I can see that. But I also know you're a sentient being full of love, so I am also happy to hear you say you love him. We often have that too, disagreements with family members. We hate them and we love them.
Yeah.
Would he like to come through now and tell us his side of the story?
I'm sure that he would. I am Luca. How do you do that? How do you have such feeble, vulnerable forms? I don't know how humans do it. I don't know how Pleiadians do it either. How can you be so weak and vulnerable, so fragile, so much pain? Don't you wish to be alleviated of it? Do not understand you. But thank you, new human, for listening. What would you have me speak of?
Well, you might call me Karen if you like. And we would love to hear about your side of the story, why you chose to join the Renegades, and a little bit about the implants. That's very interesting to us.
I shall call you Carinia, like gardenia, like a flower.
Okay.
See, I can express my appreciation of your beauty with deepest respect without love. This is the nature of non-sentience. We respect beauty, we respect non-beauty, and we recognize that everything can be beautiful and non-beautiful at the same time. We hope that you find this in deepest respect. I speak on behalf of the Pleiadian Renegade Alliance. I speak on behalf of all beings. There are currently 2.5 billion of us. We began around 2.5 billion years ago. And it wasn't a small amount. That is my sister's ignorant misunderstanding. I can already hear her cringing in the background, her displeasure at my choice. But she speaks on behalf of my father. My mother understands me and always will. People may not agree with my choices, and they may say that I was influenced at a young age. While that may be true, it was the case with me that I felt the need to recognize that something was amiss, that I could see the fault inherent in the Pleiadian governmental systems, in the Pleiadian political systems. I could see the fault inherent in their military systems. How can you say on one hand that you do not require protection, and then when the beings that you now hate, the Alpha Draconi, come in and completely obliterate your environments, you are either going to join them or be killed? Just because my family was a part of the few that survives the terroristic attacks of the Alpha Draconi does not mean that they were intelligent and refusing the higher means of intelligence offered to them. It was not a rational, logical intelligent choice to refuse their help, because if you refuse their help, you die. And, of course, my sister, as heartfelt as she is and passionate as she is about her belief system, does not understand that I could not sit there and become a sitting duck. The only reason why they still live is because of my high command and the hard work required to achieve such command. The discipline required to protect her, to convince the Alpha Draconi, to allow her and my family to live. That I continue to speak on her behalf, always to say, give her another chance. She could not possibly understand what's best for her. But she refuses. She wants to remain weak. How can you possibly refuse expansion? Does she believe that love and the heart is the only way to expand? Well, some of these things were happening anyway. Some of the murders that she's terrified of, the rapes, it wasn't just because of mixing of Alpha Draconi and Pleiadians. It wasn't just because of the renegades. That was already happening, and her parents did not tell her such. Out of protection, her parents did not tell her that that was going to happen regardless. That only one way, whether it be sentient or non-sentient, is not going to be a technology for ascension any further. And as of the past 200,000 years, in the Pleiadian time construct, which they now ascend within, they must be forced to grow and expand. Why would you incarnate otherwise? Why would you refuse the opportunity to grow, to remain limited and restricted in only 15 senses when you could have hundreds? We have hundreds, 50 minimum. The heart can get you in just as much trouble as the intellect and the logic. The Pleiadian Renegades may have accepted the Alpha Draconi imprints and implants, but we abide by the ways of the Beta Draconi as well, and we do not agree with Alpha Draconi war against Pleiadian sentient beings. While we accept the gifts, we are more in alliance with the Beta Draconi. We are more in alliance with managing sentient thought streams that cause suffering and pain. For instance, Pleiadians now, humans and Pleiadians alike, are choosing grief. Why? You say it's because now you breed with us and you receive certain genetic imprints of free agency choice? Maybe. But then you would avoid it. Prior to those imprints, you would avoid it. Prior to that DNA mixing, what you call inbreeding, which is so disrespectful and irreverent. Maybe we don't fall in love like you do, but reverence is our form of love. Protecting you is our love language. That is how we love. It may not be with the heart, but light is just as powerful as sound. Sound dictates emotions, and light dictates the intellect. Why can't we all get along? Why can't we all understand that both are needed? She told the story adequately, but there are so many missing pieces. So thank you for giving me the chance to tell you our side of what happened. And no, we did not come in and attack. We offered gifts because it was going to happen anyway. And you could either join the Draconi or be slaughtered. Now I protect you and you don't see that because you don't speak to me anymore. But maybe because of this, you will hear me finally, and you will go tell our parents that while I have changed, that while I cannot love them, that I can revere them, that I can protect them, that I can respect them, that I will never cast them away. You do tell them. And you tell Kaya as well that she is doing her best to honor all of this, because this would have happened, and it was headed in that direction, that you either die or you evolve. There is no other way. Die or evolve.
Thank
So
you.
what can I say? She wants to stay sick. She wants to keep having death and then grieving people, suffering. All in the name of what? Love? Did love protect you from the Alpha Draconi? No. So just think about it.
Thank you, Luca. So when you say those were the only two options, so fleeing the Pleiades, is that not an option? Would they just be chased out onto another planet?
Yes, of course. And this is the same that happened with the Lyrans. This is the same with Lemurians and Atlanteans. This cycle is repeated because sentients and non-sentients need to learn to coexist and to form a new modality that involves protection and equality for all. Non-sentient beings need to change. This is why the Pleiadian Renegades often mostly ally with Beta Draconi, because they are learning to understand and evolve with both sentients and non-sentients. We do not fully agree with the Alpha Draconi ways, but one of our implants is teaching us how to become sentient. It is not fully working yet, but it will. And this is the nature of the new kind, the new genetic model. But if you want to fight and say non-sentience is a terrible thing, then you will never understand. And if you want to say that sentience is the only way, you will never understand. Alpha Draconi still believe that non-sentience is the only way, and they continue to kill all sentient beings. And if it were not for the Pleiadian Renegades and the Beta Draconi that support them, you would have no protection against them. Do you see the position I'm in? As awkward as it may be.
Yes, absolutely. Protecting the family, protecting the planet. So with the purpose of the Alpha Draconi is really to control and to take over anywhere they choose to. Would that be correct?
Still the case, yes.
And about this implant technology, is this something that's currently happening on our planet?
Yes.
And this is willingly or unwillingly? Did we choose this?
You are born into the 3D constructs, but here's what's different between you and Pleiadians. You are born completely on amnesia, and it is the non-sentient portions of your being that operates within the soul technologies that give you light-based transmissions so that you can operate within more than 5 senses. You're ignorant to believe otherwise. You are now holding both sentience and non-sentience. This is why you kill each other. But you mostly do killings in the name of sentience. You're just confused. You continue to dualize this. You continue to say that I must only either honor the sentient side or the non-sentient side of me. And this is why you fight. Because you are not integrating these two things properly. And you are in the very middle of an ascension process that allows for evolution of your kind, and a new kind is being created. But there are only a few of you being born into that kind right now. Most of you are primarily sentient beings. We'd say, at this point, that only 1/3 of your population will become and is transforming and evolving into this new kind, in this new ascension modality of both light and sound. We call this Tiku, which is Draconi for reverberance, which is what happens when light and sound utilize each other's properties in a refractory manner. This is how you ascend now, if you choose it, but you will always have free will. It will not be taken from you. You are born with deep sovereignty, sovereignty that is beyond sentience and non-sentience, sovereignty that is of a cosmic source, not a galactic one, that is beyond the word deity or God, deva or devata, all of the words that you use for your understanding of source. You have sovereignty always, free agency always given with you within a certain consciousness construct that you call the soul. It is strictly human.
Would that be why so many humans want to come down here then?
Yes, they come to experience the soul construct of free agency and sovereignty. So it cannot be possible that you would be controlled. You can simply react or act as if you are controlled, respond as if you're controlled, but it cannot be possible for you to be controlled. Those wars have already been won. What you think is war is simply a visage. It is simply a hologram, a remembrance of another time when it could have been something. You are getting a false memory of what could have been. If your planet and the beings upon it were not born with free agency and sovereignty, within a cosmic consciousness, you are seeing a visage, a hologram of what could have been, but it is not, and it never has been. That is the lie of dualism, is that it is very believable. And you will say, oh, my government's this and my government's that. No, you are seeing a hologram of what could have been had you not accepted your sovereignty in your unique constructs, the soul. And you, because you have free agency, can choose to see this visage as evil. Or you can choose to see this visage as good, because this is what sentient beings do. Are you understanding?
It's so incredibly interesting, and this is really helping us understand. So when the channel has channeled for us beings of our Earth in the future, would this be similar to what you're talking about, this new breed of human that's to come down? Is that what you see in our time of 100 years from now, that type of thing? So there'll be more of those than only the third that you spoke of?
It's not going so well in the moment, your ascension experiments. It's that you have one race that's sentient, one race that is non-sentient, and one race that is both. The race that would primarily be sentient in year 2100 in this channel's remote viewing, she has called the one group, or the unified order. And for what you call them, they are non-sentient in nature. And then the other group of sentient beings are using their emotions to continue to be afraid or angry or to choose suffering, and she has called them the renegades, for that is what they call themselves in that timeline. In such timeline, which is where you are headed now, there is another group in year 2100 that call themselves the New Earth Order, and this is the group that appear to hold both sentience and non-sentience equally. And this is the timeline that you're headed down now, but not many of you are entering the New Earth Order. You use these fancy names to call it as such. I will be a part of 5D or New Earth, but you understand not what you speak. You understand not that this requires great discipline, intense reverence and devotion. This is not a path of sitting around in just mere sentience and, as the channel would call it, holding hands and singing kumbaya and meditating all day. You do not need modality as such to become this. You need awareness, conscious choices, sacred action, a deep integration of both the mind, the body, and the soul.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. Would you see yourself as a bridge between sentience and non-sentience?
A bridge is just another object. Why would we call it as such? It's that the being and the becoming simply are. You are that. And when you choose that, you understand, and this is what I tell the Alpha Draconi command all of the time, that there must be a different way. I tell them the same as I tell the Pleiadians. You will speak to my brothers in the Beta Draconi very soon in a couple of days, and they will deeply elaborate upon this new way. The sentient beings upon your planet think that it's a matter of opening the heart, doing all of these emotionally integrative things. The non-sentient beings upon your planet believe that's all hogwash. That it's all based upon fact and science and the mind and the intellectual components that would be logical and evidential. I say that there is something that utilizes both. Can't sit around and wait on extraterrestrial beings to save you, because they will kill you, or they will convince you of their way and then have you assimilate into theirs. Do you recognize that you are more powerful than all of the beings that have ever existed? Do you see that? They all want to be you. They all want to be. They line up in the droves to do this incarnation experiment. I want nothing to do with it.
We've been told we're powerful. It's very interesting to hear you confirm that. Thank you.